just get started?
Let's just do it.
All right.
That's recording.
That's recording, so audio's good.
Yeah, it's up to you. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right.
Hey Amy,
Hi,
how are
Jo.
you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Having a pretty good week so far.
Yeah, it's been a pretty good week. Had an interesting morning this morning.
Okay.
If you want to dip right into that.
Sure. Tell us. I mean, are you happy to share?
I'm happy to share.
Okay, tell us.
It's a little bit mortifying.
Okay.
I had my glucose test. Those that don't, I'm sure everyone listening to the podcast probably knows, but the glucose test is the test in your pregnancy where you get 3 blood tests, but at the start of it you drink this awful sugar drink.
It's disgusting.
Disgusting.
It's like straight cordial almost.
It's 75 grams of sugar in 300 grams. Yeah, it's gross. Anyway, and so like with pregnancy, I experienced nausea, regularly, like that's normal. It was awful this morning, and the rule is that you cannot vomit. Sorry if anyone's.
I mean, they're probably
I don't wanna
parents
trigger- I don't wanna
listening.
trigger
They're
anyone.
probably used to that.
I don't want to trigger anyone, but
Yeah.
you're not supposed to vomit in the first hour. After that first hour and you've had your second blood test, you can. And I was holding it together, and I got up to go to my second blood test.
Yeah.
Saw the toilet and I just legged it, and it just, it was not pretty. The poor cleaning stuff. It was real bad.
Oh
It was
no.
real bad. And it just really made me go, I don't want to do this again.
Yeah.
It was awful.
Right.
But also, like, I had planned to do my glucose test at 7 a.m. So, like, it's done, I'll be home by 9. But that also meant that I hadn't eaten in, like, almost 12 hours.
A long time.
So, it was a
Just
mix of,
gross.
yeah, it was not a good time. So that's kind of like the highlighted
the joys
event.
of pregnancy.
Yeah, it's not
it's
for
so
the faint of
glamorous
heart.
being a mum, isn't it?
It's real
I've
cute.
often thought that. It's
It's
just
real
so
cute.
glamorous, this job
Yeah.
that we have.
It's real, just lots of fluid. It's
Lucky
gross.
they are cute. That's what I always think.
Totally.
So
Oh
glad
my
you children are
gosh,
cute.
so
and,
glad.
Yeah, it's worth it, Amy. It's worth it. Yeah.
On the inside of China. That's right.
Oh.
How's your week?
Yeah, it's been pretty good.
Yeah.
What has been happening in the James household this week? Pretty standard week. We're very much getting ready for school holidays. So we're recording this in the lead up to the September school holidays, and you really feel that slump being 3/4 of the way through the year. I feel like everyone's tired. We're looking forward to the break. You're yawning right now, doing your best to hide it, but you are.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're all good. There's everyone's happy,
trucking along
healthy,
nicely.
and one thing we've started again in our house is my eldest daughter sometimes struggles to open up to me, and she's just very reserved, and I want to know her heart and what she's going through, but I think she can not always find it easy to express.
Yeah.
And for a while we were writing notes to each other at bedtime. She would go to bed and with her reading light write me a note and slide it out under the bedroom door, and so she's been just feeling some feelings this week, and she's been writing me letters, and I've been writing them back at bedtime, and it feels nice to feel like there's that way to connect.
Yeah.
So I've been enjoying it.
Yeah, it's nice that you've gone, okay. She might not come naturally to communicate this way, but this is another way that you found your way.
Yeah.
And so that line of communication's open, and that's really cool.
Yeah, and it's just another way to show how all the kids are so different to one another, because another one of my children will talk my ear off and tell me every feeling, good or bad, and it's just something I've had to learn that they are their own little people, and if I can find a way to connect now, I really hope that holds us in good stead over the years. So, and I'm totally going to keep this notebook for our lives.
Totally. Whip it out at our wedding.
Oh
God.
Sweet.
So it is sweet.
Today on the podcast, as I've been saying this whole time, this season's called On the Other Side. And we've been getting everyone's stories.
Yeah.
What are they on the other side of? And I have loved hearing these
Oh,
stories.
I've learned so much.
But to wrap up this season, so in case everyone wasn't aware, this is actually our final episode of season 1
Yeah.
of the Strong Families podcast. We'll be back.
We will be
Don't
back.
worry.
Yeah.
We plan on recording more,
Yeah.
but we just wanted to release in seasons and have a theme for the season. And so we thought it is only right that we would record our own on the other sides and just share stories of things we're on the other side of.
Yeah.
They might not be quite as, intense as maybe what some of our guests have gone through, but we've all been through stuff.
Yeah.
So why don't we kick us off, Amy? What are you on the other side
What
of?
am I on the other side of? Well, I would have to say, because I'm about to do it again, I am on the other side of a really challenging birth. A very challenging birth. And people say birth trauma. I feel like that's really heavy, and I think I struggled to claim that. I did find it traumatizing.
Because you feel like other people have had worse or something, and you don't want to use the term trauma.
I don't want to use it lightly.
But it definitely wasn't. Did not go to plan.
No, it did not go to plan. I definitely left it with Chris, both of us going, can we do that again?
Right.
Can
So
we do that again?
what happened? Do you mind sharing?
I can share. I'll try and make it short and sweet, but also it's such a blur for me. I feel like if you were to have this conversation with Chris, he would have it a lot more like he remembers everything. But for me, basically everything was going textbook. Birth was pregnancy was textbook, and I had a very positive outlook on birth. I was like, my body's created to do this, like we're good, we're sweet. Chris and I had lots of conversations about not birth plans, but if we were going to do pain relief, this is when, and blah, blah, blah. So we were we'd done our research, we'd studied, we had good headspace. Went into labour, and I'll jump in at the point where we went to the hospital. I was having severe labour pains, and we found out that Archie was spine to spine.
So you had one of those. So fun.
Apparently it's pretty gnarly. It's the only labour I've experienced, but apparently it's the gnarly one.
Yeah. I mean, they are all painful
They
in
are
my
all,
experience, but it is a different type of labour, and
yeah.
also not doesn't necessarily progress as easily too, which I think is stressful.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I said, Chris and I discussed pain relief. I was not speaking at this point; he was speaking for me, and he asked the midwife that was taking care of me, "Can Amy have the sterile water injections in her back?" Which are just like these little 1 ml injections that go in your lower back. And she responded with, "I don't know what that is." She's like, "I don't know."
Was it on the paperwork?
We literally did a birthing course through the hospital, and they went through, and that's how we learned about it. So okay.
In all fairness, though, it's actually not something I've heard people talk about a lot. So maybe it isn't super common.
Maybe
it's on the list, but people usually skip over it or something.
Well, maybe all of their midwives should do the birthing course. This is what your mum.
Maybe you should be better.
Maybe you should be better. Do better. So anyway, that kind of immediately just made Chris, especially because he was super present, go, "Oh no,
I don't feel safe now in this environment." Yeah.
So I kind of like to say I blacked out and went for coffee during my labour. I don't remember any of it.
You don't remember any of
None
it?
of it.
Okay.
I was in so much pain. It was like I was gone.
Yeah.
So I have little pictures of flashes of memory, but not big memories. So where my memory comes back in was when it was time to push, and I had something went wrong. I don't know what went wrong, and even the notes on my file are a little bit iffy, but I was given an episiotomy when it wasn't needed, and I felt it real bad because I just felt that there was no pain relief going on.
Yeah.
And so I felt every bit of it, and they failed it, and so they had to do it a second time.
Oh,
So I got snip, felt both, screamed. It was awful. So that for me is what I remember. And every time I think about it, I cross my legs. I'm like, awful.
Wow.
So for me, that memory that really stuck with me. Archer came out, and it was a beautiful moment. We again
best feeling ever.
Best feeling ever. This time, we didn't know what we were having, so just learning who he was and all of that.
Oh, that's right. You said
he's Archer.
Yeah.
Oh boy, he's here.
Yeah.
So it was a beautiful moment, And then I'll continue to tell the story as I lived it. I fell asleep. I fell
Exhausted.
asleep.
You've worked hard.
I've worked hard. This seems normal. And then I wake up and I see Chris in a chair holding Archer, white as a ghost.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and he's just shaking his head at me, like, and I'm like, no, it's okay. Like, I'm good. Like, I just had a little rest. I just had a little rest. Everything's fine. But he was like, not okay. But then I went back to sleep. This time genuinely asleep, I'll fill in, but I had a nap. And I woke up the next day and I'm just in like the euphoria of having a baby, and we FaceTime the families and like, hey, like, here's our kid, and things went mostly to plan, like the EP's not anything, like that sucks, but then I had a nap and I'm good now. So this is what I'm saying to my families.
What happened?
And so then we hang up, doctor comes in and he sits down, he goes, okay, let's talk about your hemorrhage. I had no idea. Chris had not told me because I think he was still feeling the trauma of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so
And maybe didn't have the words to know exactly what happened.
Oh no, he knew what had happened because I remember leaving the birth class and he said to me, I'm so feeling fine about labour and birth, but if you hemorrhage, that's the thing for me. Because that's when mums can die. Like, that's huge. So he knew exactly what was going on. So then we talked about it, and I learnt that when I hemorrhaged, I was, like, Chris and I and Archer were alone in the room. So there was no medical staff in the room.
Oh, that's interesting for there not be a midwife that soon after birth. But I mean, I guess that they are going in and out, like getting paperwork and stuff like that. But
so I was alone, and Chris just grabbed Archer and left it down the hallway, screaming like, someone help my wife.
Yeah.
She's just hemorrhaged. And I found out that I lost half my blood. So it was a big leap.
That's very big.
It's very big. And I'll call it what I think it is. I think it's an absolute miracle that I didn't need any intervention.
Yeah.
Everything. All my levels came back.
Wow.
And I was totally fine, but Chris was traumatized. And he, for a long time, he thought we're a family of three.
Right, I can't do that again.
Yeah. And like we did, make a mutual decision on having a second child. And like he was ready. But I think when we got that positive, the fear came back.
Yeah.
And so he reached out to some friends and, just kind of talked it out and got a guy, and he's okay now. And this time we're part of like a group midwife program. So we have the one midwife and
who knows your story as well.
Yeah.
I think that is really powerful with your medical care, is like you have a relationship.
Yes.
You've met them, you've walked with them,
Yeah.
they know you and they know what will be hard for you and what
Exactly.
won't be hard. Because
Exactly.
you'll be like, look, I'm easy in other ways.
Exactly.
Like, but when it comes to this, like you need to make sure
Totally.
that, I'm okay,
Totally.
this is okay. And
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of his Chris's calmness and faith came back into it when we had that meeting with the midwife. And what was interesting is she asked us how the birth went with Archer. And we were saying like this was our recollection, but we're not sure why things happened, what caused certain things. And she was like, oh, like I'm sure it all makes sense. It could be this, could be that, blah, 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 but I'll read your file and I'll get back to you. And later that night she sent me a text and she's like, I'm so sorry, none of that should have happened.
Oh, really?
And I remember like after Archer was born and the doctors came in and talked to me about the hemorrhage, they were actually really scared we were going to sue because there was a lot of
like
Cool.
they knew that
There had
there
been
was
errors.
maybe a place for that. Okay.
totally.
Oh, that's big.
Yes,
That's a
it
big
was
thing
big.
to go
So
through.
yeah, so Chris like his fear has never been around, the body's ability to have a baby and birth a baby. It's about being in a place where he could feel like he could trust, and then that trust was broken. He's like, how am I going to go into hospital thinking my family's going to be safe and they're not?
Yeah.
So I think now going through this midwife, she's instilled a lot of faith and she fully understands, and he's good now. He's good with it.
Yeah, you feel like you're on the other side of
Totally.
that. I mean, not that it's disappeared completely, but you've got to have that memory. But
Absolutely.
you're on the other side
Absolutely.
in terms of it, like
It's not a fear.
impacting.
It's not stopping us from growing a family anymore. And I think what it taught me is that as much as birth and labour is so incredibly hard for a woman physically, for the husband or the partner, if he's there in the room, like that is a huge experience to just be standing on, watching and in conversation with Chris about it. realizing that men in their nature, they want to fix and protect, and
They can't do anything.
they can't do anything. They're just
Yeah.
completely helpless and having to just surrender.
Yeah.
And
We always joke
Oh.
like that for me having babies, Dan has been given
Yeah.
like jobs of like, press that button,
Yeah.
pass me that hook or something. And he just feels like he's just,
Yeah.
his role has become
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, I can walk over and
Yeah.
open the blinds. Like, you know,
I
they
can
just
do
feel
it.
so helpless. Like
Helpless.
that's all they can do is press the
Literally.
button. You know,
Literally.
they just, yeah. And I often think that actually, because I mean, although I do remember my labours more than you, I would say, it's pretty hazy,
Yeah.
especially, you know, like right at the peak of it,
Yeah.
pretty hazy memories. And I often think, gosh, it would be weird to have clear memories of
Oh
that.
my god.
I'm almost a bit embarrassed, like, Dad, you like clearly remember these moments of like
Yeah.
extreme vulnerability.
Yes.
Whereas I just remember like holding my baby and the
Yeah.
hormone wave that you get of, you know, meeting your child. I don't remember all
The sounds coming out of me.
That's it. And like even what it all everything looked like. Anyway,
totally.
without going into too much
No.
detail,
Detail.
but
Yeah.
you know, like I have these very foggy memories, and I just think, gosh, yeah,
To be like
you're a
watching
good
that.
husband that
Yeah.
you come through all of that and you can go back for more kids.
Bless.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to say we're on the other side. We're having another
Great.
kid, and I'm definitely believing for a redemptive birth story this
Yes,
time. that
yes,
it'll-
that's
will be
definitely,
positive.
yeah, and that can so happen.
Totally.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's good. So what are you on the other side of, Jo?
Right, well, preparing for this, I was like, there's a couple of things
Yeah.
I could talk about,
Couple
but
more
I
years
decided to, there wasn't one standout, you know,
Okay.
on the other side story, you know,
Right.
one key story, but what I realised is that, you know, running a playgroup like we
Mhm.
do, so you at Playtime here in North Lakes, heaps of mums come in, and I'm always meeting people, and I introduce them to my daughter, Tessa, who's 18 months, and I will just, you know, mention in conversation, oh, I've actually got 4 kids. And it's just so interesting the response I get to that, because so many of the people coming in, you know, have 1,
Yeah.
maybe 2 children, and
Yeah.
so they're immediately really interested
Yeah.
in like, really, you have 4. And so I decided I'm on the other side of adding a child to the family, because I've done it 3 times
Yeah.
now. And so, yeah, it's just an experience that I've had a few times. And so I guess our story is that we did always want a pretty big family. We were pretty open with each other, Dan and I, that we would just have 2, see how we go,
Yeah.
and then, you know, kind of decide
Yeah.
from there. And, you know, we've hit 4, and we love having a family of 4. And so, yeah, there was always, I knew we were always going to add another kid to the family. And to be honest, going from 1 to 2 kids for us was actually a pretty easy transition. So,
Great. Love that. Thank you
gives
so
you that
much.
encouragement.
Yep,
Anyone
cheers.
out there, if you've got
I'll
1 kid,
take that.
because I actually think that's where a lot of the fear lies for people, is that they've got this one child that they feel like they're at max capacity.
Yes.
When you have 1 kid, you feel like this is max capacity, and I did.
Yeah.
You know, because your world has changed, and you know it is pretty overwhelming becoming a parent. And so sometimes you just think, how could I possibly go to 2 children? Because I'm already, you know, busy and already love my kids so much. How could I change the family dynamic? But yeah, if it's an encouragement to you, I actually found it a pretty smooth transition.
Great.
I have a video on my phone, I remember, of Penny. She was only 20 months when I had Oscar, so she was still quite little. And, you know, I just have this video on my phone of her the first day that I'm home from the hospital, just like kissing his nose and singing to him. And, you know, I just think you just go, oh, this is so worth it. Like that sibling relationship, I think,
so
is
special.
there's so much benefit to that. I would say the challenge going from 1 to 2 was probably pregnancy at the end of the pregnancy with a toddler. You would know, like that is actually a real challenge. But then actually for me, thankfully, Oscar as a baby was quite settled, so the 2-kid life was pretty good. It was great. Things went pretty smoothly. We had good support network. So I think the other thing is that, you know, the support you have around you is really, really key. And so, you know, getting meals from friends and the church family gathering around, or having parents, grandparents coming and supporting makes a huge difference as well. But yeah, what's interesting is that then going to our 3rd child, you know, again, I think we handled it pretty well. And we're excited and it went quite smoothly. But the interesting thing with that was that Oscar at the time was 2 and a bit. And when he had been born, Penny rolled with it. You know, I think some people worry about their older kid, you know, how they're going to deal. But she rolled with it really well, and you know, went with it, and it didn't seem to change too much. You know, obviously carrying, you know, kind of a newborn strapped to you, but otherwise, like, the family was pretty much the same. And then having Harry, our 3rd child, you know, I kind of expected the same. And what was interesting is that Oscar, as a 2-year-old, we thought he was sick because he started throwing up every day.
Stop.
Yeah. And I mean, not really bad, like just like a little bit. But we would do like, oh, sick. And so I would like go in the shower with him and hold him in the shower. And then we realized he was, I don't know how he was kind of doing it on purpose, but we're like, I really think he's not sick. I think he just is really enjoying the cuddles and stuff. And so we started like saying to him, can you just say, I need cuddles? And he stopped throwing up.
Whoa, he just needed that connection.
And what we've realised since is that his personality, even though he's confident and bubbly and bright and, you know, social, change really throws him more than our other kids. We've noticed that a few different ways. Like when we moved to Brisbane, he was probably about 4 years old, and same, it was, I kind of thought the kids would just roll with the punches. And for him, the change of moving, he started, like, even though he was fully toilet trained, he started being like, Mum, can you go to the toilet with me? And I'd be like, why? And he's like, oh, like, do you need help? And he'd, oh, no, I just want you to be here. You know, and okay, so I just think that's an interesting thing. So basically all of this to say there is no one size fits all. And so, like, if people out there are listening and they're like, oh, you know, I want to add another kid to my family, I think so much of it depends on your children's personality as to how it's going to go. And but also just an encouragement that your capacity will get bigger. It will get bigger. It totally will. Because you always kind of feel like you're at your max, and then you meet your next kid and you're like, I can't imagine life without this child. Like, this is our family. Like, you were always meant to be. So
awesome. Were there things that you did that to help your kid prepare for that second?
I mean, obviously, you talk about the baby, say goodnight to the baby, that kind of thing. Like, I think just, it depends on their age as well. Sure. Like, you know, I think toddler kind of oblivious. Like, Penny, when she was 20 months old, probably had, she definitely knew that something was changing, but she probably didn't really understand that the baby brother was coming. But when they're older, so that kind of also, I think the age gaps is also an interesting conversation. And I always tell people, like, there's pros and cons with every age gap.
Totally.
I think people kind of want to go like, oh, so what's the best age gap? Like, what do you think is the best?
So many factors.
I know, and I'm like, look, smaller age gaps, lots of pros in terms of like, big kid is still nappy, but you have a newborn, like, that's amazing. You don't worry about school runs yet. And then as they grow, they're like kind of at the same stages and phases together. So I think that is excellent. I really enjoyed that. I think that's probably my preferred, is to, like, if you're going to have kids, just have them. I probably prefer that. But the downside is that it's chaos. It's physically really demanding, really loud, really chaotic. And that's hard. Whereas the bigger age gap, I think, not as chaotic. There's definitely pros. Like, I love seeing the relationship now between my bigger kids and Tessa. Like, they're so helpful. They're, you know, excited when she was, you know, going to be born. They're engaged and that kind of thing. But then I guess the downside is you're dealing with, you know, conversations with older children and all of their needs and stuff, and the baby face. So there's kind of pros and cons to everything, and every family, I mean, that's what we've learned, right? Like, strong families, like, every family is going to look different.
Totally.
And it's the principles that matter, not the actual, like, practical, like, little details kind of thing. Anyway, so I don't know if that's really an on the other side story, but I guess it's just it's encouraging. I feel like it's a story I tell often. And then, look, to be honest, going to 4 kids, I thought, I've got this now. I've done it before.
Nailed it.
It was hard.
Yep. Okay, so we've gone from encouragement to just a little bit of reality.
I think it's just real life. Like it just,
Totally.
again, it doesn't fit the mold. I thought we've got this,
Yeah.
but again, another baby, different
Yeah.
personality. So yeah, that's our story.
And we got through it. And
We
here
got
you
through
are.
it. We love it. I
And
love
Tess is
having.
just-
I love having a tribe.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
that's good.
I'm starting to see our family just really, who our family's
Does
going to
it
be.
feel complete?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it
we're not gonna have
does.
another 5.
Oh, look.
No,
I've
it's
gone through phases. You thought I wasn't
I
going to
was
see it.
expecting just like, no, we're
Oh,
done.
you know me. I'm like the least
I'm just-
decisive person in the. You know me.
I know you.
I'm pretty
I also
decisive.
just expect you one day to be like, hi, I've adopted these 5 children. I am adding them to our family. I would not.
couldn't
You know
say
what?
that.
You know what? I'd be
No.
like, of course you did.
Of course you did.
That
That
makes
seems
total
like
sense.
some other thing.
Yeah.
No. Like it does feel very complete. I
Yeah.
think it's just always that letting go. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's like, oh, wow. I'm saying goodbye to each of those seasons and stages now. That is a bit of letting go, but it's
Does it make
worth
you
it. I
sad?
love a little bit, but also I'm loving like being able to not be so much in the baby phase
Yeah.
and like the little kids being able to kind of keep up with the big
Yeah.
kids and we can do fun stuff now.
Yeah.
Like Dan would never go camping when we had
Yeah.
babies. He was like, I'm not going camping. That is way too much work. You
Yeah.
know, don't want to try and do naps in a tent. Like that just sounds like not fun to me.
Yeah.
They make it sound like a bit of a fun sucker.
No,
but
no,
he
no,
just
no,
was
no, I
like,
understand.
he's like, Joe, you think it's going to be fun? It's not going to be fun.
Yeah.
And whereas now we're kind of getting to that
Yeah.
stage where we're like, oh, we can go and do stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think that's really
Yeah, that's
lovely.
nice.
So
That's nice.
yeah,
Oh, good.
cool.
That's what we're on the other side of. And
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm speaking ahead, but I feel like the other side might come back in the future, this whole theme, because the more that we think about the people in our circle, the more we realise that a lot of people.
No, there is more stories, isn't there? Right, maybe we'll do season 2 or the other
Yeah,
side.
well,
see.
we haven't talked about it.
Let's not make any promises.
No promises, but
Yeah.
yeah. But also, just a little mention: you can let us know what you would like to hear on the podcast.
Yes.
So you can DM us on Instagram at strongfamilies.au. You
Yes.
can reach out anyway on
Yeah.
all social platforms.
Yeah.
We would actually love to hear what you would want to hear. So in
That's
these
right.
in these next couple of weeks of, well, from this one being released, of us kind of having a little bit of a break and planning the next season, we would love to hear what you would like to hear. Yeah, so let us know.
And while you're there, rate and review.
Yeah, rate and review. Oh my god,
5
we
stars,
we haven't
please.
done that. Okay, we've made it through a whole season without being like and subscribe. Please.
5 stars,
stars,
please.
subscribe.
Rate and review if you're able to. It would be really cool. It would be really cool to get that feedback and help other people find the podcast.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
We always wrap up with
Oh,
our
we do.
parenting hack.
I'm so
Amy, you
sorry.
almost forgot.
Oh,
All right, because
God.
every episode we
Every
finish
episode.
by asking a parenting
Parenting
hack.
hack.
So we're going to finish the season
So
by
sorry.
sharing our
Hack
parenting
monkey.
hacks. You know, you.
Okay,
You go
alright.
first.
Me go first. Okay. So many things. I'm just gonna pick one because it's real in my week this week. I have a real challenge sometimes getting Archer into the bath. Okay, doesn't want to do it because I feel like he.
Usually kids really like the bath.
No, see, he does, but he's also just had a lot of time when Chris is home. The boys will have a shower and they like have fun and something.
Oh, so then a
So if
bath is inferior.
A bath is inferior, and so when it's bath time, it's like, stitch up, where's Dad? Oh, Dad's working or whatever. Anyway, so getting in the bath is a hard time, and so I looked up bath paint.
That sounds messy.
It sounds messy.
That
Amy
sounds
3 years ago
Amy,
would have been like,
Amy.
no. But so because Archer in the last couple of weeks has been fascinated with painting, so I thought, how can we bring this into bath time? And so Pinterest, praise the Lord, Pinterest saved me, and I found this recipe that you mix baby soap, cornstarch, and food coloring in,
Amazing.
and I put it in like these little ice cube trays, all different colors.
Did you
with a
freeze
paintbrush.
it?
No,
Oh, no. So
it
it's
just
liquid.
stays liquid.
Yeah.
And he could draw on the side of the bath.
Loves
And
it.
so that was the fun
I'm
thing.
going
like,
to try it.
do it. We would like, draw pictures and I'd write his name and he was, oh, it says Archer. And he said, write mummy. So I'd write mummy. And it was just so much fun. We were having such fun together. But then the second part of the activity was, okay, now we get the face cloth, we wash it off, and it cleans off.
Does it actually wash
Yeah,
off? That's what I
genuinely.
wanted to ask, because I know people sometimes buy the bath crayons and then regret it because they have to scrub to get it off.
It
And I don't
washes
have
off.
time for that.
It
in my
washes
life.
off.
Okay.
And I think doing it in the moment, like, okay, next day.
yes, don't let it dry.
Don't let it dry.
Okay.
I mean, so I haven't seen it dry, but in the moment, and Archer found it really, really fun.
That is a great hack.
It was really
Thank
good.
you for sharing. I'm going to give that a
So
go.
welcome. Give it a crack. What's yours?
Okay, well, you know me, long-winded, got lots of words, so I have
Let's go.
two.
Okay.
My first is that something we've been trying lately, I read it somewhere, is family dinner time. We light a candle now. And the kids take turn lighting a candle at the start, and you have to stay seated at the table, having family time, chatting, until the candle gets blown out.
That's amazing.
And so, yeah, we're even Tessa, you know, we kind of are like, look, no, candle's still going,
Yeah.
so we stay here, stay in your seat, don't get out of your high chair. And you know, obviously you like incrementally increase it, like little kids, it's like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But I just have really seen the value of dinner times lately. Like, we've always done them, but instead of just spending it like shoveling food into everyone's mouths, I'm really trying to use it as like, this is the family time, we chat, and talk about our days, and ask some interesting questions and stuff. And so I guess it's just trying to also kind of, I don't know, create a bit of fun around like, okay, who's turn? Oh, you ate all your dinner, you get to blow out the candle, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's one hack.
I like it.
Feel free to give it a go if anyone thinks that would be helpful. And then the other one is a little bit more broad, but something I like to share with other parents is that for me, it is so easy to focus on like negative behaviours. Like your child is whinging and whining, and you're like, stop whinging, or they're like tugging on you while you're talking and interrupting, stop interrupting. They're being mean, you know, being unkind to someone, you're like, don't do that. And there was just this like shift that I had a few years ago when my older kids were little, where I decided to kind of give them language around like some of those behaviours that we expect. So we have 3 in our family that if I say it, the kids know like what the answer is.
Yeah, nice.
So if they're like tugging on me and trying to interrupt, I stop and I go, what does patience mean? And they have to say to me,
I do this.
waiting happily. That's the best one.
I've taken that.
But it just reminds, like in the moment, instead of being like, hey, you're interrupting, blah, 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 like, and over-explaining, it just reminds them, what does patience mean? And put the positive spin, I guess. So that's our first one, what does patience mean? Waiting happily. The next one is, what does kindness mean? And they have to say caring for others. And yeah, that's good. You know, if you just see something a little bit unkind, a little bit mean, you ask them that, and then you go, okay, so what do you think you should have done? And it just kind of reframes instead of like, stop snatching the toys or stop. Like it just gives you that chance to go, let's talk about how we want to act in our family. And then the third one is, what does honesty mean? Telling the truth.
Nice.
The kids sometimes are like trying to be sneaky or hide things from you or whatever, and so I don't want to accuse you of lying, but I want to remind you that honesty means telling the truth.
Great.
So those are our 3, and it's just been a really good hack. We got them on our fridge, and from probably about 3 years old until like my oldest is 8, and we still use it. It's been a really helpful little tip.
I love that tip, and I'm so glad that you shared that, because I knew there was a third one. I totally forgot what it was. But like it was always one of those things. As soon as you said patience waiting happily, I took that and was like, I'm going to do that with Archer.
Yeah.
And it was just it felt like a bit of a flex when I'd be in the shops and Archer would be like having a moment.
I kind of like that too.
Yeah.
People look at you like, whoa.
I know. And I like Archer's always been a pretty good talker. So like at 18 months, I'd be like, Archer, what does being patient mean? And he'd just like babble, waiting happily, and just other people would be like, like
that's amazing.
That's my boy. And in my head, I'm like, thank you, Joe.
But
It's
hey,
such
I'm
a
hoping
fun.
it's like this internal dialogue that they have.
And he gets it. So that's really awesome. Oh,
That's
good.
great. Well, I'd like to share that one. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for listening, everyone.
Yeah.
We love getting to do this. It feels like such a privilege, and we love that you're listening along. Please share it with your friends.
Yeah.
Please, contact us, send in ideas. We would love to.
Subscribe.
Like, subscribe. 5-star reviews. We would love to hear from you, and we can't wait to release more content to you soon.
Yeah, stay tuned for when that is. But until next time.
See you then.
Bye.
I've had so much talking.
Season 1 is a wrap.
Okay, no. Woo! I don't know if we could do more than 3 episodes. That's
done.
a lot.
One more?
No,
That's it. That's it. We're done.
That is so
Yes,
much
what do you want the other
talking.
side of?
I love talking, but man.
And
Girl.
because it's so lighthearted that, you know, you feel a bit like... blah, blah, blah.